Proclamation, whereas United Act of Kindness is a day for our community to come together to spread joy, hope, and love to friends, family, co-workers, and neighbors. And whereas First United is seeking to elevate 10 million lives by the year 2030, and through the generosity of citizens, community leaders, churches, nonprofits, and businesses, all can be a light of hope in a world that may often feel like darkness. And whereas United Acts of Kindness Day is just one day individuals can spend doing just that in our communities. And whereas no act of kindness is too big or too small, and kindness can be as simple as calling an old friend to see how they're doing or paying for someone's order in the drive-thru. And whereas United Acts of Kindness Day positively impacts lives by extending love and allows us to be more kind. And now, therefore, I, Helen Hayes, Mayor of the City of Bulverde, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim February 13th, 2026 as United Acts of Kindness Day in the City of Bulverde, and encourage citizens to focus together to change the world one random act of kindness at a time. Proclaimed this 10th day of February, 2026. All right, do you have somebody who's all right, to be, we're going to pull this for a future meeting as Mr. Hernandez cannot be here tonight. So, all right. Moving on. Police Department to see summary of January 2025 activities. We'll do a presentation of the annual Bulverde Police Department report. Chief Hager.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have a couple of things to look at this evening. First, you have the January 2026 monthly report. 1,266 calls for service for the month of January. 15 total arrests. 20 crashes that we actually investigated and sent in an investigation report to the state of Texas. Average speed citation over the limit on Highway 281, 22.3 miles an hour over the limit on 46, 19.9. We issued no speed citations on 1863 during the month of January. We had an average of 22.4 everywhere else in the city. If you have any questions about the significant events or cases or anything like that, we can call for service. I'll be glad to answer those if you have any questions.
I have one question on the change in the speed limit on 281. It's now 70.
Right.
How does that extend all the way to the city or actually through the city?
You have to pay attention. There's some parts that are 60.
No.
Yeah, they actually, it used to be 65 all the way through. For some reason, TxDOT, without any consulting with us for sure, I don't know about with the rest of the city, but changed the speed limit. 70 miles an hour coming from the from Bexar County, all the way up to about Mustang Vista, just south of Mustang Vista, drops down to 60. And then it goes back up after you get north of 46.
Let me assure you, they did not talk with the rest of the city. And we've discussed this with TxDOT in meetings that we've had with them. I don't see it changing anytime soon, but we were told this was in response to speed studies.
Yeah. Maybe we write too many speed citations and they say we need to rate. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me, but hey, I'm just a low man on the code.
Did you notice that where they put the 70 when you come off, there's also a orange work sign? So I guess, is it 35 then, not 70 through there? We don't know the answer to that. We did meet with TxDOT and they didn't know the answer. So our local guys didn't know the answer, so we're waiting to get that figured out. So as soon as we know, we'll be able to tell everybody else. And they were also supposed to put up some new signs and they're not finished doing them. So We'll figure it out as soon as they give us an answer.
Yeah, not really sure why they raised it. More traffic on the roads than ever before, but let's make them go faster.
And slower.
Makes no sense, but I'm, like I say, low man on totem pole.
Yeah,
Any
I
other-
hope the 281 hour speed citation, I hope that's not with the new 70.
Yeah, well, it's more challenging for, it's really not gonna change. But it's more challenging for us to, okay, where we at? What section were they in? So, any other questions about the January?
Chief, hey, I know, we were on to the next one. Can you also put on here the calls for service that you're covering for the sheriff's department?
You want to start adding the number of,
Yeah, just add it to that first, where you got, Bulverde Police Department had 1266 calls.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? Just add on there of those, how many were,
that's kind of gathered already right there in that county number.
okay,
Yeah, 12 in the month of January.
okay,
That's pretty average.
that's average.
Yeah, we run between 10 and 20 normally every month.
Then we can use that county number as that number.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Okay, on to the fabulous 2025 report. Okay. All right, so we'll discuss in any point along the way. If you want to stop me, if you have any questions, please, I encourage you to do that. And I'll do my best to try to answer those questions. So we'll start with 2025 calls for service, down 8% from 2024. In 2025, we had almost 14,700 calls for service. That's down 8% from 2024, where the number of calls were 16,038. If you look at those numbers there, 30% of those calls for services are actually happening on state right-of-ways. So 46, 1863, and 281. That's accounting for 30% of those calls for service. As you can see, they've gone back and forth a little bit since 2021, but there's no dramatic increase or decrease there over those last 5 years. Comments, questions, concerns about calls for service?
Any sense of what's driving that?
It's driving what, the decrease? I think there's a couple things, and I think I'll touch on that as we get along, because we had a really big decrease in one area, and you'll see it will stand out very much, and I think that will probably answer a couple of those questions that you might have. So next we'll take a look at the incidents. So incident reports, the difference, I'll give you a real quick incident versus a calls for service. So calls for service is like, for instance, if Council Member Watson has her business on an extra patrol request. Officer goes out there, walks around the building, everything is fine, he'll do a calls for service. He walks around the building and he finds an unlocked door, that basically rises it to an incident. Now he's going to write a report, hey, I found an unsecured door, I contacted the owner, they just forgot to unlock it, I'll just document that in a quick calls for service. We're not even counting our traffic stops as a calls for service. Years ago, when the PD first started, we actually counted each traffic stop as a call for service as well too. And back in the day, there were some guys making 20, 25 stops per shift. So we got away from that when Joe Hamilton became the police chief here, and it changed those numbers significantly. But a routine traffic stop doesn't get a call for service anymore. It's been that way for many years now. If you make a traffic stop and you find drug paraphernalia, now you're going to write an incident report. If you make a DWI arrest, now you're going to make an incident report. So that's kind of the difference between the call for service versus the incidents. Down 26% from 2024, down from 2,067 down to 1,523. If you see there, the majority of those calls for services are once again coming from the state right-of-ways and Singing Hills. That's where most of our traffic is running. That's where a lot of our traffic stops are made. That's where a lot of the dope's found. That's where a lot of drug paraphernalia, guns, things like that are located. So I'll touch on your decrease here in a minute. Okay. But as you can see there, in the last 5 years, no real big changes. I mean, it is a significant decrease from the last 5 years, though, as well, too. And like I say, we'll talk about that here in just a second. Any other comments, questions, concerns about that? No? Okay. So this slide represents the Uniform Crime Report offenses reported. This is what a lot of cities go by when they look at their crime rates, because this is what the FBI gathers every year. This is part of our UCR report that we turn in every month. We turn it on a monthly basis. So as you can see, It's down 12% from 2024. One of the biggest decreases that I can see right there is thefts. So that's a good thing. If we got less thieves in the city, I'm happy with that. I think everybody else should be as well too. One of the unfortunate things that we've seen increase in is assaults. Not a huge increase, but we went from 40 to 48. As you can see, the numbers from 2021 to 2025, no dramatic changes there. It stays fairly average, so to speak, for the city of Bulverde. But that's where you get safest cities, that kind of thing, is off the FBI Uniform Crime Report. Any questions about the Uniform Crime Report portion? Criminal investigations. This basically just captures the numbers of cases that actually went to the Criminal Investigation Division, CID, that got investigated in one way, shape, or form. Even a DWI case file will go to CID because there's follow-up that has to happen. If it was a blood draw, blood's got to be sent off to Austin. As a matter of fact, we can no longer send any evidence via the mail. It all has to be driven to Austin. So challenging. So we're taking at least once a month. We got one of our detectives driving to Austin, making a trip to Austin to drop off evidence. That's an Austin question. I don't have the answer as to why they are no longer accepting email. We never had any issues in 20 years going through the mail. Never lost anything. But for some reason, they're no longer allowing that. Not really sure why. But this gathers the information from the CID division and code compliance as well. I went back and looked at the numbers. We don't list the numbers from the previous years, but I went back and looked at them today before I came in here, and they're pretty average. They might have changed maybe 20 across the board. It fluctuates about 20 to 30. Other than that, it's very, very uniform and regular, so to speak. Any comments, questions, concerns about CID? Nope. 2025 traffic enforcement. This is the one that we sometimes catch some heat on. That we're out there on the streets too much. There's been people say that Bulverde is a speed trap. When your average speed citation on 21 is almost 22 miles an hour over the speed limit, I can argue that all day and all night. Same thing anywhere else in the city. The smallest average over the limit is on 1863. Speed limit on 1863 is 55 miles an hour. So if you're running 65 plus, you might get a visit by one of our guys. Everywhere else, it's averaging 20. We're usually around 20 miles an hour over the speed limit across the entire city if you average them all together. Number of the court citations, that 5872 number is actually about the number of stops. It's off a little bit, but not by much, and it's only because the records management system may not catch some of the handwritten ones if an officer's auto writer goes down, so to speak. So there was roughly 5,900 stops that the officers made during the year. 1,803 warnings with a total of 7,253 violations. If you look at that over the last few years, another significant decrease there. And like I said, I'll explain why I think that decrease is happening.
Jim,
Yes, ma'am.
FM 1863, is that just counting from 281 east, or is that into town?
1863 is just 1863. Bulverde Road is a separate district.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have I don't want to call them districts, but areas set up in our records management system, and Bulverde Road has its own section.
Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Citations by zone. Here again, state roadways are going to be our biggest place where the officers are writing most of the violations at, because that's where most of your traffic is at. And we'll look at crashes here in a minute, and you'll see very quickly that the state right-of-ways are the main places where we're having all the crashes as well too. So on Highway 281, almost 3,000 citations. Highway 46, just under 1,000. FM 1863, a little under 200. Everywhere else, about 1,750. And that number totals the 5872 back on the previous page that we looked at before. 2025 safety citations by category. This just breaks down categories. We didn't put all the categories up there because there's quite a few more, but it captures the main categories. Biggest one being vehicle registration violations. Right under that is the speeding citation. Does anybody want to guess what was the fastest citation we wrote over the speed limit on 281? So give me a miles per hour on 281.
112.
111. You're awful close.
Wow.
Awful close. 111 miles an hour on Highway 281. Once again, that number matches up to the 5872 on the previous pages.
That's not a goal, by the way.
No, yeah, you do not win an award for the fastest over.
But now we're asking for 2 hours.
Just to clarify,
So yeah, you don't get an award for that. I hate to see that if you actually got an award at the end of the year. No telling what we'd see out there on 281. All right, any questions about that slide? Okay. 2025 arrests. This is where we've seen a very significant drop, 39% from 2024. We went from 281 arrests last year to 171 this year. And this is where I was going to hit on that topic for you, Councilmember Watson. So I think there's a multitude of things that are accounting for this. One of them is being that we've been working short all year. We still have one position open right now. At one point during the year, we had, the latter part of the year, we had 3 people in field training at the same time. And then that's burdensome. So you're basically taking that officer that was out on the street doing his job, now he's training a person. So he's not doing what he normally does because he's training. And so that's one of the significant reasons why we see a lower number. It's been a tasking year for the police department. There's been a lot of questions. We went through a policy review. The guys are asking me a ton of questions. We went through the gun thing the entire first part of the year, that was not a good thing. So there was a lot of questions that the guys were asking. And there was some concerns from some of those guys saying, hey, how should we respond to this? And I said, hey, I'm the guy that needs to deal with that. Y'all don't worry about it, just do your job. But even when I say that, they still see what's happening. Okay. And so that's been a challenge for us this year as well too. But I think the biggest thing is just we've been working short. The one thing you have to remember, and I've said this to some of you in private before, it doesn't matter if we arrest 40 people this month or 4 people this month. What's the difference? Liability is great over here when you arrest 40 people. It's a lot less over here when you arrest 4. But our paychecks don't change. So if there's less exposure and less liability, the less you put yourself out. And so that's one of the challenges that we've been dealing with this year as well too. But overall, I can also say that, hey, maybe the bad guys aren't coming to Bulverde anymore because they know that they can't get away with it. So that's another reason that I think plays a role in this as well too. I've said it. I've stood up here at this dais and said it many, many times before. If the bad guys drive around Bulverde, I'm okay with that. If they don't want to come through Bulverde because they're scared they're going to get caught and commit their crime somewhere else, I'm okay with that. Go somewhere else. So I think that's part of it as well too. But I'm just giving you the information that I think is the real reason behind this. I could stand up here and basically say our guys are kicking butt and taking names. That's why this number's so low. I'm just being real honest with you what's been going on behind the scenes. So.
Can I ask a clarification
Yes,
question about that?
Yes, ma'am.
So, are you saying that the officers have felt reluctant maybe to put themselves out there because of a policy review?
I think there were questions. A lot of them came to me and asked questions. What are we doing wrong? And I said, we're not doing anything wrong. Then why are they doing this review? Because they want to do a review. I can answer that question in a couple of different ways, but what I'm not going to do is tell them, hey, we're doing this wrong. And in reality, I don't feel that we're doing anything wrong. The policy review came back and said we're within the standards of the state law, and that's what I passed on to the guys. And they said, well, there are going to be any changes. I said, there's going to be some changes, yeah, but they'll be for the better, So there's not a push to change the entire policy that I'm aware of, and we're fine with that. It's just that there's that unknown. Anytime something like that comes at you, there's that unknown. We're not 100% sure what's going to happen, because we don't. I can tell you that you can have, and this is how I often refer to it, is I can take the same facts of information over here and spin a wonderful story. I can take those exact same facts and spin a negative story over here. And so it's how it's all put together. And I think Mr. Baker did a good job in putting it together. He said, hey, we're within guidelines. There's no major issues here. It's just that we could do some things better. And so I think it was very fair. I really do. But I tell our guys, and that's an unfortunate part of this job, is we're all from a peace officer standpoint, I don't care if you work in Bulverde or if you work in San Antonio, if you work in Chicago. We're all one incident away from a hero or a zero. Something cracks off and you do everything right, you're the hero. Something cracks off and you do something wrong, you're the scapegoat. And it's the world we live in.
It's a thankless job, Chief. I appreciate you doing it.
Gary, thank you for your insight on this. You know, it's hard for us sitting here to know what's going on over there. I think that's good. Thank you.
Is there anything that we can do to improve morale going into 2026? Us, this body.
I think, you know, you guys gave us a nice raise last time around. We appreciate that. And that was needed. That was needed very bad. You know, I found out, I'm not saying this to get another raise, don't misunderstand me. But I found out the other day, I talked to Ron Eberhardt from Garden Ridge Police Department. They actually start their guys at $3 more an hour than we start our guys at. That's Garden Ridge. Their call service is probably half of ours or less. But I'm not saying that. I think we're in a great shape. You guys have got us where we need to be, and I appreciate that, and all of our guys appreciate that. I'm not saying we need another raise, but I was astonished by that. The Garden Ridge PD pays $3 more an hour. I was astonished by that. I don't know how they do that, but that's not here nor there. You said it was a thankless job, Councilman Goff. I appreciate that, but I think in Bulverde, we're very fortunate. We have people that thank us all the time for what we do. So it is a thankful job. The problem is just like the gentleman that was on trial down in Nueces County from the Uvalde shooting. He got there within 3 minutes of the call, ran down the hall into a hell of gunfire, and ran out when the rounds started coming through the door. And they put him on trial. Said that he neglected those children. There were guys that pulled up out there as part of this trial that I watched. There were guys that came to that scene and sat on the perimeter and left before the incident was even over. But yet they took that guy that ran into that hell of gunfire and put him on trial. And I don't think it was fair. It's the world that we live in. But like I said, one incident away from hero zero. That guy can spray bullets all up and down the hall. It doesn't matter. We're responsible for every single round that leaves our gun. And so it's a challenge. I'm off my soapbox. I'm sorry.
One other question there. Do you think the fact that Sheriff Bruno's jail is full might have any impact on that lower risk?
So I was going to mention that on the warrants. When you look at that warrants, that was one of the biggest decreases that we've seen was on the warrants. That plays a role. They're not taking Class C warrants, but it was rare that we took Class C warrants to begin with. We always tried from a city standpoint to, hey, if you owe the money city via warrants, then pay those warrants. It does us no good to go take them to the jail and put them in jail. So we try to work with them. I mean, we've unfortunately had to let people go that had warrants.
Do we know if they're sending people out of county? No, he was there for a while.
I'm sorry?
Are we sending prisoners out of county yet? Remember, he was using.
I can't answer that. I have heard since the jail has opened that they were actually housing some federal inmates and getting paid for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they still are or not. That's a county question. I don't have the answer to that. I don't want to speak on that because it's not my place to do so. And then the other big decrease that we've seen there was the possession of controlled substance cases. So that's huge. I mean, I don't think that's related to anything other than the fact that there's just not that much out there that used to be out there. I think the bad guys are learning to go around Bulverde. If you got dope in the car and you're trying to come through, go around. You know, so that's a good thing. Any other comments, questions, concerns on that? Very good. Okay, 2025 accidents. Unfortunately, that's where we've seen the biggest increase, was up 19%. And I'll refer to that as it's no different than putting 10 people in this room or putting 100 people in this room. Your chances of a fight happening with 10 people in this room are slim. You put 100 people in this room and the increase is tenfold, right? Same thing on the roadways. If you have 1,500 cars going down Bulverde Road every day versus 15,000, the more cars you put on the roads, the more wrecks you're going to have. And unfortunately, we're seeing that. And I think this also plays a role in that decrease in some of those other areas that we're seeing. The guys are having to spend more time working crashes now, whereas they were out and able to be able to be more proactive. Because what makes those numbers is the proactivity of our officers. That's what makes those numbers. Anybody can come out and drive around in a car and just burn the tires off the car and burn the fuel out of the tank and not do a thing. But we look for proactive guys that want to come out and make a difference in this community. And it's a good place to do that. A lot of guys really enjoy that because if you get a job in San Antonio as a police officer in San Antonio, your job is to take calls for service, and that's what you knock out. When you get in a car, you got probably 45 to 50 calls waiting for you to start knocking down. Not like that here. The guys have that ability to go out and be proactive and make a difference. So, unfortunately, we had 2 fatalities. One was the pickup truck versus the bicyclist on Highway 281, which we're all familiar with. And then another one was on Highway 46 right near Anhalt Road. It was raining. It was a rare day we had rain in the city. And somebody came around the turn, was going too fast. Hydroplaned in a pickup truck and struck another car head on. Person in the vehicle that hydroplaned was the passenger was the one that ended up dying in that crash. So, comments, questions, concerns?
I just want to clarify, so we have increased traffic on the roads, that's increasing the number of traffic stops and crashes.
Not so much stops, but crashes for sure. Yeah. Crashes for sure. Yeah, I mean, you can't avoid it. Highway 46 used to be our big crash spot. Back in the day, Highway 46 accounted for about 60% of our crashes. And now it's split pretty much 30 something. It'll throw on one of the slides here between 46 and 281. So we see a lot of crashes on 281 near Walmart, St. Hills area. We see a lot of crashes right there. That's a hot spot. And then also the traffic lights on 281 near Mustang Vista. They come over that hill, and especially when it's wet, you're going too fast.
Oh, yeah.
But let's increase the speed limit, right? Yeah, let's do this.
So, Chief,
Yes, ma'am.
have you noticed that they think that there was a third lane there?
Where at?
Okay, right there at 280, where we're talking about where that light is. So when I just FYI, I mentioned it's TxDOT because when you go to stop at that light, right? So the people who are going to turn into the turn off right there are assuming that that turn lane, everybody's shaking their head, they know what I'm talking about, is starting like a half a mile or right after you come after the hill, they get in that lane to turn and they're going straight through it because you don't see a light there.
Right.
So I mentioned it to TxDOT about it and they said they were going to look at it.
Okay.
Because too many times they're sitting there and they've gone straight through the light. And I don't know, it's going to be bad.
I've written tickets for it. I think there's a break in the fog line right there, isn't it though? Doesn't it actually start just this side of the
Well,
line?
it's still a full white line, so they shouldn't be crossing over. There's
Okay,
nothing to break to get in there,
Okay.
right there. And it's before the light, way before the light, almost at the top of the hill.
Unfortunately, they don't listen to me either.
I know.
You know,
I know.
I would love if they
But
did.
it's been mentioned to them to look at that.
I would love to
because
see those lights blink after midnight as well too, personally. I don't know what y'all's thoughts
Good
are on
idea.
those, but that's me. But anyway, okay. Comments, questions, concerns? No? 2025 accidents by zone. This just breaks it down by zones. And there's the one I was telling you on the percentages, 39% now on Highway 281 and 32% on Highway 46. And those are all around Walmart and Mustang Vista for the most part. So once again, state roadways, I think it says 82%. I can see it up there. I think it's 82% of our crashes are happening on state roadways. That's where most of our traffic is. But it makes sense. That's where we're writing most of the citations at. That's where most of the call for service are coming from. I mean, that's where most of the folks are.
Do you think that as Highway 46 gets done, some of this will go down? Are these accidents related to construction?
I think that once 46 is finished, we will see a decrease in accidents on Highway 46, or at least I hope so. Especially with the curve down the center, I think that's going to really eliminate a lot of those accidental pulling out and other traffic kind of situations where we're having crashes. So that no center lane going down where everybody's backed up and somebody's coming down the center lane, somebody pulled out. So that'll eliminate all of that. I expect to see the 46. I wouldn't be surprised if 46 doesn't drop to 12, 15% when it's all said and done. Unfortunately, there's no fix for 281 anytime soon.
Yeah, I think milling the hills down 46. I mean, that's
Oh yeah,
so much already.
yeah, no doubt. And then it will also, I hope, eliminate a bunch of that traffic coming down Bulverde Road. Because man, we got a ton of traffic coming down Bulverde Road. Danny can't even get home from work at evenings. He's got to go the back way to get home. As a matter of fact, I got stuck down there today in the traffic, and it was backed up all the way past downtown, past Pimer Cove down here, and you couldn't get out on Cougar Hill.
17 minutes the other day to get out of Bulverde Hill.
Yeah, it's
17
crazy.
minutes, I counted.
It's crazy. Okay, I can't fix that though, man. Any other comments, questions, concerns on this? Okay. So this basically gives you a look at the time frames of when those crashes happen. And what have I been saying all along? The more cars you put on the roadway, the more crashes you're going to have, right? So when are they happening? Early in the morning when all the cars are on the road, everybody going to work and going to school, at lunchtime when everybody's taking a lunch break, and then again in the evening when everybody's trying to get home.
School pickup too, I see school pickup.
Yeah. School traffic and everybody trying to get home. You mix all that together, and it's you're going to have more cars on the road, more people are going to crash. Simple as that. Quite honestly. Any comments, questions, concerns on that at all? Okay. The next slide actually breaks down the accident factors. Now, these are only for the crashes that we've actually done an investigation on and sent in a crash report to the state of Texas. There is a section on there where you have to fill out if there was anything that led or basically was part of the crash, so to speak, was a factor. And the biggest one there that you see is speed. 30% of our crashes are related to speed. And some of the other ones you could even be still related to speed. It just depends. Following too closely. Sometimes it's following too closely. Sometimes you're driving too fast and you weren't too close, but now you can't stop. So it goes back to speed. So it just depends. But it breaks it down. Any comments, questions, concerns about that? Okay. So the next slide is basically a distribution of duty time. So we have patrolmen fill out a daily report, and they put how many hours they spent doing what they did in that 10 or 12 hours, whatever their shift is out on patrol. We try to get 20% of that time in residential patrol, 20% of that time in the business patrol as well, because that's where our residents live and our people work and shop. So we want to take care of that more than anything. So we really push hard for that 20-20 split right there. But unfortunately, the calls for service is in the crashes and the report writing portion. That's going to creep up on that at some point and start taking away from that. But no big changes here. It's pretty regular. If you go back and look at the previous years, those numbers are pretty tight. They change by 1 or 2% at a time, and that's about it.
What's included in 10% of other?
Lunches. That's probably one of the biggest parts of other. Restroom breaks, that kind of thing. Anything that's not captured there basically is other.
And you said for like a larger municipality like San Antonio, this distribution would be more calls for service, and residential patrol, business patrol would be very.
If they caught an accurate number of calls for service response in the city of San Antonio, it would probably be 90+%. Mm-hmm. Because I'm telling you, when they check on duty, I got friends that work for San Antonio. Man, I checked on duty. I got 56 calls waiting. Oh, yeah. Sorry, man. You know.
My buddy is SAPD, and yeah, he clocks in and it's like checking your email.
Yeah.
One call after another.
Yep. One call after another. And those 50 calls some of those are waiting 2 or 3, 4 hours. Yep. You know.
Well, it's an important number just to at least stay in this forum and for those watching, because routine surveillance is one of the largest deterrents against crime. So yes, I appreciate that these numbers are the highest of this distribution. The fact that it is visible.
Yeah, high visibility patrol, no doubt. I mean, if I park 4 patrol cars on your street, what's the chances your house will get burglarized or your car will get burglarized? Pretty slim, right?
I'll be a little more careful myself.
Right. Then you might think we're after you or something, right? So anyhow, so high visibility patrol, the more, and that's why our VIPS program. If we keep those cars kind of marked, I've gotten some. I've been criticized. Hey, that looks too much like the patrol car, but that's the whole idea. Get it out there. The more I can get that out there, the lower our crime rate's going to be in the city of Bulverde.
Where are the VIPs patrolling now?
So when the VIPS guys come out on patrol, they'll usually ask us, hey, do you have someplace specific that has some issues that you want us to patrol? So if we're having an issue somewhere, they can go do that. But we give them a daily patrol sheet as well, too. And it'll actually have all the extra patrols on there as well. So like if they're out at nighttime and the council members Watson's place is on there, then they'll go by there and check those as well, too. Just to get a patrol car out in front of those places is huge. So that's what they do. But when they're out, most of them come out during the day. And we tell them hit the neighborhoods.
Sure.
Hit the neighborhoods, because your residential burglaries happen during the day when nobody's home. Rare that they happen at night. Businesses get burglarized at night because nobody's there. Burglars don't want a confrontation. They want to come in and steal your stuff and you not realize it till the next day.
How many active VIPs and cars do we have?
We got 2 cars right now, and we have a list of VIPs, but there's only a few that are active. We have an active list, and there's probably 15 or so on that list. But there's only really about 2 or 3 or 4 that come out and actively do it. So,
Good number.
but I do have a stack on my desk that I got to get through at some point. But unfortunately, I don't have no time to get through them right now. So it's just a small application process. We go through them. As a matter of fact, our part-timer that we hired to help Debbie was a VIPS volunteer that filled out an application. When I was going through the applications, I seen his application. I was like, wow, this guy's got a lot to bring to the table. He would really work good there. And sure enough, he's working fantastic.
Great.
And he's enjoying it. So that's the biggest thing. I mean, if you don't enjoy your job, it makes it miserable, and he enjoys it. So
That's a good program.
all right. Any other questions? All right. So the highlights throughout the year, unfortunately, crashes are up 19%, criminal offenses, which is a good thing. Reported down 12%, custody arrest, we could argue that's good, down 39%. Calls for service down 8%. Once again, we could argue that that's a good thing because there's less crime. We got less people concerned about what's going on. And then that big decrease in incidents, which is down 26%. And I think if I had to look at 2 things on there and say these are the 2 biggest things out of that, I would say one is the crashes, it's up almost 20%, and that the incidents are down 26%. Because those incidents actually get into, okay, that was a crime committed, not so much just the calls for service. Anything that rises to the level of an incident, once again, is some type of crime, or it's important enough that we need to document all this information. Okay? Then, of course, we got our POET program, our VIPS program, and our National Night Out. To date, we've done almost 900 young folks through the Police Officers Educating Teens program, which we're still doing. We normally do it monthly if we can fill the class. If we can't fill the class on a monthly basis, we push it off. The nice thing about POET was a couple of years ago during one of the legislative sessions, when they created a mandatory teen program, the court didn't have to create it. We already had it in place. So it was just a matter of transition right into what we've been doing already since 2013. We started the POET program in 2013. Here's our VIPS, 473 volunteer hours that we got out of our VIPS this year for a total of a little over 3,700 miles. So you can tell that's an old picture. It needs to be updated. That's when Mary Bell was still with us. And we miss her. Mary Bell was a great individual. Any questions? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, on the VIPS program, hearing you say you've had applications, but you have not had time to review them. Is that a program we can help you spread the word about, or is?
I really don't need to spread the word more because I got a stack already on my desk.
Yeah.
I gotta have the time to get through them. And we want the right people. I mean, that's
Understood.
I mean, I've had some VIPs in the past that have been bad seeds, and I've had to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And so I don't want that. That's too time consuming. It's just a real challenge. It's never fun when you got to do something like that. You regret you not so much did you regret it, but you don't want to deal with it. You try to push it away. So
That's
we want to make sure. Yeah.
Big liability. So
Yeah.
you gotta be very careful who you bring into that position.
Yeah. And hey, I mean, from a liability standpoint, we were like, when we first started the program, we were like, a lot of people said you're going to let us carry firearms, and we talked about it. And we talked to the city attorney. We said, no, we just too much liability there. But I'm taking away their Second Amendment right when they come and sit in that patrol car and patrol. You know what I mean? So we got to make sure we have the right person in there, and they're there for the right reasons, and their eyes and ears. That's what we tell them. Your eyes and ears. If you see something, say something. Report it. It's extra eyes and ears. Comments, questions, concerns.
Do they carry anything like that taser or a burn?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to do that.
You carry a radio.
Yeah.
That's all.
Call us. Yeah. So on their daily activity sheet that has all the extra patrols on it, gate codes, things like that, so they can get in and check these businesses and stuff if they're out after hours or even during the day. They have the police officers that are on duty that day. We write their phone numbers on there. We write their name on there, their phone number on there, and we tell them, hey, that's who's on duty today. If you need to report something, this is who you call. Now, we talk about it when we train during the VIPs training. If you're driving down the street and you see some guy come running out of the house and he's carrying a TV, and there's the other guys coming behind him carrying a share, then get on the radio and say something. Or if you have a major crash in front of you and you know it's bad, that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. But it's very rare that they ever get on. So. Okay, National Night Out 2025, third place in Texas, seventh place in the nation. Womp, womp, womp. You know, when you, it's good, but once you've been at the top, there's nowhere to go but down. And so we will take, the plan is to take a break this year. National Night Out is very time consuming, very, very time consuming. Now, we're not going to do away with National Night Out. We're going to have block parties and we're still going to go visit those parks and everything else. We're just not going to do it to the level that we did it last year. We're not going to have the big luncheon. We're not going to have the big dinner. We're not going to solicit the funds from those folks. Unfortunately, a lot of those businesses that have supported us over the last several years on that fundraiser sponsorship program, there's people lined up asking for donations. It ain't just us, you know? And so we want to try to just ease that burden at least this year and say, hey, we appreciate you. We'll be back next year. But this year we're going to give everybody a break. Even Walmart and H-E-B has changed their programs tremendously. It used to be that I walk into H-E-B and Gary Grinstead would walk and say, what do you need, Chief? And I'd tell him, well, this is, you know, because we put gift cards, $25 gift cards in all of our host bags that host an event at their residence so that they can help buy stuff for their event. And they've gotten away from that. You now have to put an application in online, and it takes literally up to like 12 weeks to get a response back. And so there's some real challenges that we would face this year that we didn't face last year. So it's also an opportunity for us to kind of regroup as well, too. And I can tell you that Debbie is like, God bless you, Chief, when I told her we were going to take a break this year. And Nolan said the same thing as well, too. So it's just, it's a lot of work. It's a ton of work. Like I say, we're not going to get away from it completely. We're still going to have the block parties. We're going to go out and visit folks. Sure, we're not going to have those sponsorships that we've normally had in the past. At least that's the plan. Comments, questions, concerns? Okay. Fleet overview. Touched on this last year. Was the first time that we ever did this. So I got a test question for you. How many miles is it around the equator?
25,000.
I'm sorry?
25,000.
Do you know the exact number?
Not exactly.
You're close. 24,901. As you can see there, our little police department drove almost 325,000 miles last year. So a math question, how many times is that around the equator? A lot. 13.
More than
13. And how many crashes did we have in that 324,000 miles? One that was a real crash, so to speak, and the other one was a guy went off the side of the road to make a traffic stop, and there was a piece of 4x4 laying on the side of the road, and when he hit it, it slung up and hit the side of the car and damaged the side of the car. I don't really call that a crash. So I would think that that's pretty good. That's pretty good. You drive that many miles, and that crash that the officer had, yes, it was his fault, but he was in a pursuit when it happened. And the guy was actively running. They chased him quite a while. So, all right. Any questions about that fleet overview? That fleet overview is actually broke down to the cost per mile average, as well as the cost per mile for each unit. And I always give the lieutenant a hard time because the Dodgers always have a higher cost per mileage rate. And I'm a Ford guy, so I always give him a hard time. Man, look how much it's costing us for those Dodgers, keep them on the road. All right, that's it, folks. Any comments, questions, concerns? No?
Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Finance,
Good evening, everyone. Hard to follow that. Mine's gonna be short and sweet.
How many times around the equator have you gone?
Not that many. I don't even know one. Okay, so for finances. Oh, that's okay.
Got too tight.
All right, so for the month, this is for the month of December. For reporting purposes, we're already a quarter of the year through, and that crazy. So revenue collected was $634,504. Year-to-date collections through December were $932,531, or 8.83% of our annual budget. We did not, in December, we did not receive the property tax ad valorem monies. We did get them, our first deposit in January. We're getting our second deposit tomorrow. For expenditures, $780,000, $781. Those are all pretty much normal with the exception of the extra pay period that we allowed the employees for the year end to buy back vacation and sick leave that wasn't used. That's just something that the city's done. So there's a little extra payroll in there. For our expenditures for the year, we're at 23.5%. Again, it kind of falls in line with the quarter. Let's see. Sales tax for the month of December reflected $295,408.95. We are below last year, 1.86%. Fiscal year 2026 as a total, we're down 3.79%, $7,904. And fiscal year 26 year-to-date collections are below as a total $34,500, for about 3.79%. So y'all go shop, spend lots of money.
Don't order on the app.
I'm sorry?
Don't order on the app.
Right? And go through the drive-through at Chick-fil-A
Yeah,
and,
don't go inside.
yeah.
Don't order on the app.
Don't order. Okay, and
Idiot.
our interest earned for the month of January was $22,411. Everything's kind of normal. December. Kind of got a little nervous about the sales tax, but I think we're going to pick that back up and get back on the uphill swing. So, any questions on that?
Is there a point where you say, uncle, something may have changed?
With regard to the sales tax,
Yes.
when you have 3 months in a row of down sales tax, that's a red flag.
Well, could that have anything to do with some economic, like the average price of goods declining and so on and so forth?
So yes.
Prices have fallen in certain areas.
Yeah, so I think money's a little tighter, so people don't have a lot of extra cash to go out and eat out, shop, extra activities that they would normally do. I know personally my groceries are astronomical compared to what they used to be a year ago.
No kidding.
The reason I was saying something about the app was, if you order on an app, it goes to the inside of the store, so we don't get the sales tax on it.
So you're saying
And
that
everybody orders on the app.
you think it might be attributable to a decline in discretionary spending,
Correct,
not necessarily a decline in the cost of goods overall?
correct. Yeah, and I think it'll come back. I think people will kind of, rolling into with the holidays and money was really tight and everybody, so everybody kind of wasn't sure what was going to happen. And then we also had the furlough, we had all that issue going on. So, and a lot of, we're San Antonio.
You don't know about that.
Yeah, no, about that.
Yeah. So, but I mean, so those 2 months, people didn't have the discretionary cash, so they didn't get paid again until middle of December.
Yeah, they're still making it back in my check right now, so, yeah.
Yeah, so, things were really tight for about 2 months. So, and being, US military city, San Antonio, it affects everyone around us. So I think that kind of played in it as well.
So it's not a trend necessarily, it's an isolated event.
I'm hoping.
Okay.
I'm kind of keeping an eye on it. I'm just kind of watching where we're going.
So
Well,
if
three
3 months is the marker, we've cleared 2.
Yeah, so yeah, we're just kind
Is
of,
there a percentage down that
5% or more down is cause of concern.
yeah.
Generally speaking, figures for February, I just looked at the February figures this morning, we're up 2% year over year.
We'll probably see an uptick with that Chick-fil-A Golden Cup. You can go get a Golden Cup at Chick-fil-A. Free
You've not heard
Chick-fil-A
about
for a
it?
year
Yeah, free Chick-fil-A for you.
if you win.
Okay, so any questions on that finance report?
Nope.
Okay, and just really quickly with the investment report, money pretty much stayed where it was at. I did have to dip into our money market for the month of December. It was $339,000, about $340,000. Moved it over just to cover expenditures for the month of December until we got our monies in January. So. Questions? That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Public Works,
hear me? Okay. Council, Mayor, key updates for Public Works report. We removed a total of 24 bandit signs throughout the month. We did a couple of edge repair and pothole repairs. One of the key things we did in January was the freeze response and the actual preparedness for this freeze that we received. We did winterize City Hall, PD, the parks, we closed the bathroom, closed the park for the day or so, just to get us through the freeze, just prepared for that. Luckily, there was no major incidents during the freeze, so we escaped some of that.
Just the pressure regulator and the diffuser broke again for the splash pad.
Yeah, it wasn't actually the pressure regulator, it was actually
Did it freeze?
the feeding, no, it actually broke before that. So,
Okay, good.
yeah, so that wasn't part of the freeze, but that was just something the guys were in preparedness for the freeze.
Right.
They noticed that it was broke. It could be just, it looked like it just shifted, so it could be just because of the drought, things start to shift and break, so they caught that, and so we actually,
Seems it's always breaking.
it's an aged system, so yeah, you guys keep an eye on it. One thing I did want to report, we did replace some faulty GFCIs at the Pavilion 1 and 2. We've also repaired the lights on the pathway, so staff did repair that, so it's functioning perfectly well now. But other than that, we did some work at the Roberta Community Garden, so other than that, just normal, just standard maintenance throughout the city. Any questions?
Does the bandit
Did
sign,
you say you did some? Sorry.
does the bandit sign removal eat into your productivity at all?
We have a standard schedule on Monday mornings to do bandit sign removal. So at first it was quite a bit of consuming the time of the guys. But because we have been so actively doing it, and so communities and residents know, like, they don't put the bandits out sign, so it's a lot less. So it's reduced time to maybe about an hour Monday, hour and a half.
Okay, good, good, good. I
Yeah.
just don't want to see that distracting from our, meaningful work.
Yeah, no, I think at the beginning it was taking, a good 2-3 hours to go out through the city. But now that we know the hot spots, we manage that.
You just tie it into your normal day to day.
It is our Monday, it's on our Monday schedule, so every Monday morning, that's the first thing we do besides their normal maintenance on the facilities.
So we had no freeze damage in any of our facilities.
No freeze damage, no. We did have a little issue with our AC unit that we had to repair, but that was just, it's just continuous running, trying to keep up with the heat in the building.
The heater in the city manager's office did not work.
Yeah.
I was at 3 San Antonio City Parks yesterday, the restrooms were closed, their outdoor water fountains were roped off. The city of San Antonio was not prepared.
Yeah.
Freeze it, it's gonna cost them a lot of money.
Yeah, we closed and winterized every facility that we have in preparedness. Had our generator out here, so generator's ready to go, and we test the generator every hour or so. Mr. Castor and I.
No,
Well, Mr. Castor and I were here throughout the evening, so I was out
I slept.
there. But
How long does it take to haul the generator back to the storage unit?
what's that?
How long does it take to haul the generator back to the storage unit?
Since the storage unit is right here, about 30, 45 minutes.
Okay.
To get it over there, back it up, unhook it.
You ever thought about just parking it under the awning here?
Well,
It needs to be covered.
yeah. Well, part of our emergency operation program that we're planning on, we're actually looking at installing an emergency generator here. Yeah, backup generator here. So, but for right now, it's at the store.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Somebody else?
Moving on to number 3, consent agenda items. Consider approval.
Parks report.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I checked off parks, I was ahead, wasn't I? Parks and recreation.
Hi, good evening. Our meeting that we had on the 29th was a little bit short and sweet. We received some information from Texas Parks and Wildlife that we have their applications open for us to possibly get grant money. That application opens up in May, and we'll look at start filling those out and getting the information that we need for that. We're looking to set up a stargazing event in the month of April here at the park. It's from the San Antonio Stargazing Association. We're going to set up with them to try to put that together. The Kiwanis Club has come to us to they have a donation for us, and we decided that we'd probably like to use that to put an extra outlet at the pavilion for just for use, because I believe there's only one on that whole pavilion, and we're still looking at getting more information. We've received a couple bids, but we're getting more information for the donation wall that we had spoken of before for the park, the donation tree, and we're just waiting on some numbers on that and a couple different design ideas.
Is that the $2,500 donation from Kiwanis?
Yes, sir. I believe it is, yes.
And they want to use it for what? For an outlet?
For an additional outlet, and that would probably have to run right to the breaker box. So it's would probably take some drilling to or groundwork to put that in, which is usually the most expensive part.
Wait, can you repeat something for me?
Yes,
This electrical box can be used for what?
just as an additional outlet,
So basically for music in the park, I guess?
Is essentially.
Okay. Cool.
Or people who are renting the pavilion.
Yes, ma'am. Because there's just one outlet, two plugs.
Right.
It's not good.
That seems insufficient.
It's not good.
Which is killing the GFCI, so.
Yeah.
So anybody have any other questions for me?
No?
No.
We're good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, consent agenda items. 3A is consider approval of the regular city council meeting minutes from January 13th, 2025 and January 27th, 2026.
Madam Mayor, I reviewed the meeting minutes and I can find no errors or omissions.
I didn't either, so. Anybody else?
We're not handling this as a consent agenda.
Yeah.
I mean, a consent agenda is everything gets approved under one vote.
All three of
Oh,
those
well,
items.
yeah, okay. Consider an ordinance ordering a regular election to be held in the Bulverde, Texas on May 2nd, 2026 to elect city officers, establishing an early voting location, election precincts, and polling places for said election, making provisions for the conduct of the election, and providing a severability clause and effective date. This is so that, consider the approval of a joint election agreement for election service from Humboldt County Clerk's Office like we do every year. They do a good job at that, and they have it down to a T. All right, so I need a motion.
I move we accept the consent agenda items as listed.
Okay.
I'll
Move a
second.
second.
I'll
Okay,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Number 4, regular agenda items. Discussion and consider an ordinance of the city council of the city of Bulverde, Texas, granting a park special use permit to hold its Bulverde Music in the Park at the city of Bulverde Community Park on 321, 418, 516, 66, 912, 103, and 1024 of the year 2026.
And I will be abstaining from this one.
Mayor and members of council, as the mayor indicated, this is for authorizations for a full year of events. This is the same as all the previous events, with the exception that they signed the updated hold harmless agreement and influence requirements the council required at your last authorization back in August or September of last year. So, we have to answer any questions you might have.
The only question is I'm gonna ask, so are we having a problem area with the electricity to be able to hold music in the park there? Is that what this discussion was about a few minutes ago, about getting that box in there?
Yeah, there's like some insufficient outlets at the gazebo. That we.
But we need it for music in the park.
Oh,
Well, for anybody who.
No, wait. We're approving to have it on these
I wouldn't
days.
see Jeremy.
So on March 21st, does it need to be done by March 21st is my question.
What was the question?
Do we need to have the electrical in place by March 21st, the first day Or, no?
Yes, if we wanted to add that outlet, yes. Music in the Park has operated without
Without
the
it,
flood.
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, so it really not necessary,
Okay.
but if it is, it does, it still runs regardless.
Historically, they sometimes overload the circuit, but sometimes they don't. Just depends on how many people plug what in. You know, a bunch of hair dryers, it's going down.
So I make a motion to approve granting the park special use permit to hold its Bulverde Music in the Park at the City of Bulverde Community Park on 3/21, 4/18, 5/16, 6/6, 9/12, 10/3, and 10/24, 10/26.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What do you want to get, Jason? We're gonna go to 4B, discussion and possible action regarding the adoption of fiscal year 26-27 budget calendar.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 4B is approval of the FY27 budget calendar. The proposed calendar meets all state of Texas truth and taxation requirements. The first city council retreat is scheduled for Thursday, May 14th. Additional work sessions are scheduled for June 25th and July 30th. One required public hearing will be on September 8th, and budget and tax rate adoption will occur on September 22nd if we maintain the calendar. FY27 begins October 1. As we get closer to the end of this, we lose flexibility. So a lot of the dates and a lot of the requirements from the state kick in when we get close to the public hearing and the adoption and the newspaper publications. All of that is really on autopilot, and we don't set those dates and times as much as the state sets those. I mean, they don't formally come in and tell us, but we do have to follow truth and taxation, and you literally need a master's degree to figure out when you can hold your meetings. It is pretty straightforward. Early on, we can move some stuff around a little bit. We get halfway through and we're in the home stretch and we lose that flexibility. So that's why I'd like to get these. I understand this is new, that we've had baby budget calendars in the past, but maybe not this detailed.
This is very helpful.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I just took a picture of it.
And I want to get this. You should see the one that Sharon is going to have to deal with. It's
No,
several
no.
pages. But again, the idea is to get it out there, get it published. You all can get it on your calendars, we can get it on our calendars, and we know when these dates are. So again, this is what we have this year. It complies with the state law right now. And again, I seek your approval for this.
And you said we can move it a couple of days if we have to.
We probably have the flexibility early on some of these hearings to move it a day or two if we find people who are not able to make a Thursday date. You know, we might be able to move it to a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but moving it a week further or a week out, then it really starts to impact the schedule overall.
Can I ask, just for my education, what's the difference between a retreat and a workshop?
None.
Okay.
It's just fancier.
It's semantics.
Mike, thanks for putting this together. Planning, we came dressing this out because, like you said, we haven't had this before, and you know, then we're checking schedules and trying to make dates. So I appreciate you doing this and
Yeah.
putting your thought into it.
And I think the budget has worked here before. I mean, we've had a time process before. The budget has worked in the past. You know, I have a different experience that I bring with me, and I like to see things that get published and are public, and you all understand and know what's going on. That's not to say that didn't happen in the past, but it's February and we know what our budget calendar is. That's a good thing.
Yes, I agree. I'm ready to make a motion.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve item 4B, discussion and possible action regarding the adoption of the fiscal year 2026-27 budget calendar presented by Mr. Mike Castro.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Presentation update by the Bulverde Police Department regarding the plot safety camera system.
This will be not near as nice and fancy as the annual. I wanted y'all to pass these around just to kind of get an idea, because I don't think any of y'all have seen it before, but those are pictures off of our clock camera systems right here inside the city. Because I think there's been some misconception on what those cameras actually capture. And what you see right there is exactly every time we get on there and search a vehicle, the only thing that changes is the vehicle. Every time we go to search for a vehicle or a suspect vehicle, that's what we get. We currently have 3 cameras in place inside the city limits. I think I've mentioned this before. We are backing off on the state right-of-way requests because it is so burdensome. I talked to Seguin Police Department a couple months ago. It took them almost 2 years to get through the process of permits with TxDOT. So it's ridiculous on how long it's taking, not to mention Texas DPS has purchased about 1,000 cameras that they're going to be putting across the state of Texas on state right-of-ways. We're hoping that a couple of those might fall inside the city of Bulverde somewhere, and even if they don't, they will still help us in our searches for suspect vehicles when we're doing that.
Gary, I saw there's one over by the Cibolo Creek now on 281. Is that ours or is that? Okay, so it's probably what you're talking about.
Yeah, not going to be ours.
Do we know who it is?
I'm sorry?
Do we know who it belongs to?
If it's down by the Cibolo Creek on 281.
Yeah, it's on our side. So.
Yeah, because there's an argument over whose creek bed that is. If they crash on that bridge, Bear County says it's Comal County, and Comal County says it's Bear County. So I think that's open for debate, quite honestly. But no, I do not have a clue whose camera that is, if there's a camera. I haven't even seen it. Now, next time I go down there, I'll look.
Yeah, we need to find out who that belongs to.
Yeah. And so we have 3 cameras currently in place. We have one on Bulverde Lane down by the park. We have one on Bulverde Road up by near Hillside Oaks, which catches north and southbound, east and west, depending on where you look at that Bulverde Road. And then one over by Walmart on Singing Oaks.
So we have 3.
3 in place right now that we can actively go in and search. Now, the one by the park is down for some reason, so we got to reach out to Flock and find out why. We don't know why. But every time that we have any type of incident, any type of theft at Walmart, Academy, Dine and Ditch at the Aichihuahua restaurant, and we're looking for suspect vehicles, if we have a description, the first thing we do is get on the Flock camera system and punch it in and try to find
Have you found?
just so far since December, we've got 3. Yeah, and so we just had one recently. Matter of fact, I think we put it out on I don't remember if we put it on Facebook or not. But we had a Dine and Ditch at the Aichihuahua, and we used that to identify the car. So it works. It's just a challenge getting through the permitting process if you're trying to get them on the state right away. Seguin says that they'll capture up to 25 or 30 feet. So if that's the case, we might be able to put them on some private property if some people along 281 are willing to do that, and still capture those on 281 if we want to do that. But at this point, we're ready to just stick them around the city in high traffic areas that are not on state right away, just to get them up and going and get them running. Because this program is purchased on a grant. Part of it was on a grant. We had a small match. But if we don't use that money, I'm sorry.
It's funny they give you a grant for a year. It takes more than a year to put the camera.
Well, that was one of the things that I argued was up front was, hey, if we're going to do this, our year process doesn't start until all the cameras are in place. And they pushed back a little bit, but they finally agreed to it.
Okay, good.
We did have to get an extension on the grant because we were running out of time. So they granted that for us. So that's one of the reasons we're trying to move that off of state right away and get those things in so we can get this thing rolling. Any comments, questions, concerns?
How many cameras will we have at the end of the day?
If it comes out like it's supposed to, we should have 10. And one of those will be in the park, which will be a 10 pan tilt zoom style camera. But we're just gonna stick it on the parking lot because, at one time we were having multiple burglaries out of that park down there. People would come walk in the evening, and unfortunately, people leave valuables laying on their front seat. Bad guys come in, break the windows, take their stuff.
Does somebody operate the camera?
You
or does
can.
it go on a schedule?
You can, but we won't use it for anything other than probably just parking lot.
Okay.
And we had somebody drive onto the basketball court one time and do a burnout. Yeah, challenging.
So when is the expiration on this that we're gonna have to pick up the cost for this?
Whenever we get the final camera in, I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, so it won't start until that day, when camera number 10 is in,
When camera number 10 is in, that's when it's supposed to
It'll-
start. 1 year.
1 year.
Correct.
Okay. All right, and you'll keep us updated as
Oh,
to
yeah.
when that goes into effect,
Yep, yep,
please, so that
yep.
we know and we can make sure that we get those items in the budget they're not talking about. Okay,
And we have an estimated cost anyway?
I'm sorry?
Do we have an estimated cost of what that's gonna cost us afterwards?
I would hate to estimate it right now because I don't know what it'd be when we get that final camera in.
Okay.
Because we'll have a year from the final date of that final camera. And at this
Yeah.
point, I'm giving up guessing,
Yeah,
because I didn't expect it to take this long.
gotcha.
So, any other questions?
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. 4D, discuss and consider possible action regarding the solid waste service franchise agreement.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. This evening, I'm bringing you a presentation regarding the solid waste collection contract that we currently have. Solid waste contract extension with Waste Connection will cover the current contract, city support items included at no cost, residential service rates, annual CPI adjustment, and a quick peer comparison, and then request council action on that. As you know, currently our contract originally started back in June of 2022 and runs to, it ends May 31st of 2026. The contract currently has an extension option for 2 consecutive 1-year terms that we'll be considering tonight. The slide will explain the city's service and support that Waste Connection provides the city of Bulverde. Currently, we have up to 7 dumpsters, 8 yards for municipal locations collected weekly as needed. Currently, we have 1 at City Hall, Police Department, and 1 at the Bulverde Community Court. They also provide us a bulk drop-off support with vehicles and staff up to 2 times a year, which we call the Big Trash Day. Currently, we have one set up for April of this year that's out on Facebook and our website. They also provide special event container support for up to 2 city events per year. We mainly use this one for a Christmas lighting event, but they bring dumpsters and trash bins for that event. They also provide us dumpsters for our personal brush that we remove off right away, which you see behind the police department. They also provide disaster relief if needed at a FEMA rate. Just recently with the ice storm, we did call them and ask them if they're prepared if we did have an ice storm where we had major services needed. They were ready, willing to provide us that. The Bulverde Citizen Support, they provide a weekly curbside solid waste collection, supplied containers at $14.84 a month. Bi-weekly curbside recycling collection is also provided for optional at $5.30 a month. They also provide an additional setup for if you want to put out small bundles of brush or newspaper or magazines, and just have to follow their criteria, which is I think 3 inches in diameter as far as the limbs go, up to 4 feet long, and under 35 pounds total. Now you could tie those securely, and you could set those out whenever you have your trash picked up. So that's provided as well. This is the current rate. Current rate on the current contract started at $14 a month. It steadily increases due to a consumer price index. The recent one that this council approved was back in May of 2026. I think it was one of your first action items.
2025?
Oh, 2025, sorry. At 1.04%. So since the inception of the actual contract, overall increase with the CPI has been 6%. So in comparison to other cities comparable to Bulverde, Fair Oaks is $29.01. This is, of course, just standard residential pickup. As you can see, we're the cheapest one. The ones in with the asterisk on Civil and Seguin, those are also Waste Connection customers. So even amongst their own customers, we're still pretty cheap.
Has Hill Country Waste Solutions approached the city at all? A bid?
I think they've reached out, but whenever, this is not a bid process, this is just the option of extending the actual contract itself.
Okay.
So if we did go out for bid, then we would send it out for bid.
Yeah, I remember council a couple of years ago, they went out to bid on this and Waste Connections came in just astronomically
So
cheaper. I mean,
Very
it's
Then
just so much under it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hill Country wasn't doing as much.
And Hill Country's trucks,
Yeah, they have that.
Yeah, they have
Country's-
waste-
Hill Country's trucks leave oil all over the road. They're dripping oil going up and down the road.
these guys.
One thing,
Well, they got new trucks. They got new trucks.
Okay.
They're putting out new trucks.
the big thing is I think Waste Connections has their own landfill now nearby.
Yes, they do,
they
over
can
in
cut
CD.
So this slide pretty much breaks down your monthly rate for residential garbage at $14.84. We also get a senior rate discount for anybody 65 years older. That's $11.71. The recycled card is $5.30. Same thing with the senior citizen. And then if you want additional cards, it's $6.32.
So I had no idea that they offered a senior rate.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an opportunity for us to sort of get the word out, maybe to let seniors in the community.
Absolutely,
No.
yes.
And the additional cart is only if it's not your cart. You have an option of putting your garbage can out there. Like if you have an extra garbage can that you put out, or you're putting something extra out, and they will pick it up with no charge.
I bought a second one from
Yeah.
Home Depot that's almost just like the one.
This
they
is
have.
just if you get a cart from them. And their carts pick up 1,000 pounds now, each arm. So up to 1,000 pounds. And we gotta remember that they're also 44 inches wider because of that new arm.
This slide is the commercial rates for a 95-gallon container. They also have the dumpsters, which are 2 cubic yards, 4, 6, 8. It gives you their lift rates. If you got one, it could come out 4 times per week. This is the commercial side of it. Again, the roll-offs for the commercial side, 20, 30, 40 yarders, and what they charge. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions?
Aaron,
discussions?
what is, or Mike, or Danny, one of you can tell me, what is our mandatory, what did we say that in city limits, we had to use whoever we contracted correctly with?
Yeah.
So what, okay, so what are we doing with those that aren't contracted?
City doesn't actually enforce that. The last time we had numbers on it, which was several years ago, it was our estimate that approximately 3/4 of the city used city sanctioned garbage, and then approximately 25%. Although when we see one of their trucks here, we used to send a cease and desist letter to the company. But as far as like writing citations to citizens, like we had to run, I believe we had to request Waste Connection, one you mentioned earlier. The waste stop serving because we saw their trucks.
Then we may wanna do that again, because we've had a lot of new residents move in, and those trucks are going, that's how I know about people.
Right, no, my only concern really is that we have a city sanctioned monopoly on trash service. We wanna make sure that we select the company that's gonna bring the best value, and best cost for the service.
Yes.
You will pay less and you'll like it.
And so you're telling me that Waste Connections is the better bet, and they're not even here. If I was Hill Country Waste Solutions, I would have been present at this meeting.
I don't think they were invited,
It's an open meeting.
and if they don't read our agenda, I mean,
If I was a.
I think we should have called them and invited them.
That's
This wasn't a big process.
That's their job.
It's
No,
not a
there's-
bid process, that's what I'm saying.
If I was a mover and a shaker at Hill Country Waste Solutions, I would have seen it on the agenda, and I would have been parked in that chair, and I would be at that.
They
podium.
have visited with us, though, they came to the meeting.
Yeah, and again, this is not a bid process. This is just a request to extend
Aaron, did you see any services that possibly the city could use that could be presented here, the city could take advantage of? Is there something that they could do that we haven't requested as part of the contract,
So let me-
something that we need?
Let me jump in on that note. This is to extend the contract as it is right now. Period.
We're not going out for a bid.
Yeah, if we want to change things up, we need to go out for bid.
I think these are offering a great rate out.
We're getting a lot here.
Yeah, I don't think.
There's a lot.
I don't think it's
So
worth the time. and
let's go
money.
back to this. So what we're doing here is we want to approve a 1-year extension of the solid waste collection contract with Waste Connections. That's what we're here to discuss, and only to vote on that, okay? So, I'll make a motion that we approve a 1-year extension of the solid waste collection contract with Waste Connections.
Second.
Consistent with the contract terms, including CPI-based rate adjustment, and authorize the city manager to execute associated documents. All right, we got it. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
There's no trash, man.
all right. Actually, they're really nice, you know, they get out and they talk to you too, so. Okay, 4E, presentation, discussion, and possible direction to staff regarding the City of Bulverde Capital Improvement Plan.
Pass it down, please.
You're not allowed to give us any documentation, it's supposed to be in the packet.
Finished it this morning.
It was supposed to be. Because then we have the next one.
Thank you. Members of council, item 4E is a discussion about the City of Bulverde Capital Improvement Program process. You have set aside $50,000 in the current budget to address capital improvement programming. We are looking to receive guidance from council tonight. So with that in mind, my very first slide is a list of questions. And so again, I'm not looking for the answers to those questions right now. My very last slide will be these same questions. I just put them out there early so that you can keep those in mind as we go through the presentation. So I thought what we would do also tonight is talk about, let's see, skipped over, you've got the questions. CIP defined. What is the CIP? Capital Improvement Programming. Some of you will know what it is. For some of you, this may be new terminology. There are lots of definitions for what is a CIP. I tend to try and reduce it to simplicity, and this is about as simple as it gets. A multi-year document that provides a government schedule of public physical improvements. A couple of points that I want to make here on my own. One, it is a living document. So CIPs are meant to change. It's not as though I'm asking you to adopt a CIP and it won't change for 5 years. Likely it will change every year that we go through and look at it. The overall direction may not change, but the specifics in the CIP will likely change within that time period. It's scalable. We'll go through and we'll talk about 4 different scenarios that I have, and I'll present those 4 different scenarios to you. You can go from a very simple CIP to something that is as complex and involved as you want to make it. Generally speaking, the larger the city, the more complex. They have staff that are dedicated to this. They have staff that can do all the needs assessments and all of the engineering work in-house. We don't have that. So necessarily our CIP will be at the lower end of the scenarios that I'm going to present. It is both a planning and a finance document. Oftentimes cities will adopt capital improvement programs and there's no tangible work product because they didn't think about how they were going to fund it. So again, that'll be a theme that I'm going to repeat throughout this discussion is it is both a planning document and a financial document. And it is my wording here, it's a repeatable process. So whatever we do this year in our CIP or for our CIP, I hope to be able to come back and do next year. And more to the point, when the current staff here is gone, when the current council is gone, I would hope that some resemblance of the CIP program is what we are doing in the long term, and it survives all of us. So CIP defined. Components to a CIP, a prioritized ranked list of projects. So prioritized and ranked. That's important to understand because we won't have enough money to do it all. Estimated project costs and timelines. Funding sources. We use a PAYGO system now in the city of Val Verde. Do we want to continue to use a PAYGO system? PAYGO meaning just pay as you go. Do we want to continue that manner, that method? Or do we want to issue debt at one time or another? And then also what's important, and it also gets left out in CIP programming, is the projected impact on the operating budget. So many times communities, school districts adopt CIPs and they have not thought through the full impact of these capital projects on the operating budget. I'll address that in a little bit. Focus of CIPs, and I have this ordered in terms of where you see CIPs being utilized and what they're utilized for. Most commonly, they're used for utility infrastructure, so water and sewer, followed quickly by roadways, sidewalks, drainage facilities. Municipal buildings are a good target. Parks and associated large capital equipment. I have seen playground sets that cost over $1 million. You know, and we installed one in Yukon, Oklahoma that was $1.7 million. And it was a set for disabled children. It was a set for all children. And I mean, it was just a fantastic playground, but it was $1.7 million. That's a capital program money.
We're not getting that
It's expensive. It's very expensive. It's a regional attraction. And you have people coming from 10, 15, 20 miles away for that specific park because it is designed for children who have specific needs. So we decided to make that expense. Regulatory compliance. There are a lot of unfunded mandates that come from various levels of government, and they all cost money. And largely, they cost money that has to be funded through some form of capital program. Last one down here is one that you may not think about, and I've given some examples. These don't necessarily apply to Val Verde, but for the sake of discussion, I have them down here. Large, complex, costly equipment. So it costs a lot to start a dispatch operation. And when you start that up, there's a lot of expenses in computers, a lot of expenses for recording devices, a lot of expenses just in terms of servers, networking, desks, furniture. You don't want to go cheap on a dispatch chair where a dispatcher is going to be sitting for 8 or 10 hour shifts. You want nice furniture in there. So all of that costs money, and it's handled through capital programming. IT requirements, typically anymore, it used to not be this way, but typically IT is a capital program. Fire apparatus. The ladder truck is a $2 million piece of equipment. So again, these are typical examples of what gets funded. CIP funding. There are multiple ways to fund capital projects, and this is just a very simplistic explanation of that. What we do here is pay as you go. It's worked well for Val Verde over the years. You can utilize current general fund reserves, which means you have to know how much you have in general fund reserves and what level City Council is comfortable with in those reserves, or you can set aside a set amount year in and year out and include that in your budget. We do that with our street program. We include $1.5 million, and that's a permanent fixture in the budget. Certificates of obligation, generally used for utilities, generally tied to funds that have a revenue associated with them, do not require a vote of the general public. However, they are subject to a petition vote of the general public, much like our taxes in some regard. If we were to issue certificates of obligation and the public didn't agree with that, or some segment of the public, they could in fact circulate a petition. If they meet the threshold, then the city would be obligated to hold an election. So again, that's certificates of obligation. General obligation debt is the most common method for funding of capital programming, and those are subject to municipal elections. So if you're going under a general obligation debt, the interest rate is actually a little bit lower with general obligation debt because they are backed by the full faith and confidence of the city finances. So if you're funding them and you are committing the city to first and foremost in your budget, pay for the debt. That's how debt works. above everything else, above salaries, above anything else going on in the city, you will pay your debt first. And when you have a general obligation debt, that's the statement you are making to your creditors, which is not difficult for 99.99% of the cities in Texas. So that's how CIP funding works. I think if you want to go into any further questions with that, I would need to get somebody with some expertise in here. I'm just going off of what I've done over a 28-year career, what I've seen happen. So here's our current Bulverde program. Not a formally defined program per se, which I think is what drove council to say, let's set aside some funding for this. Capital needs are determined with our annual budget. Some departments have capital needs, a lot of departments don't have. We have a line item for every department, but not every department has a capital need every year. We set aside funds for street maintenance and police department vehicle purchases. We have periodic granting needs from the state and federal government, particularly with regard to our public safety. So we are active in that area. I tend to be skeptical of most grant awards, if only because I think you spend more money than the grant is worth. And they are very, very tough, and they have a lot of strings attached. Texas Parks and Wildlife Department grants are a good example of that. And I could tell or give examples that would really turn you away from those grants. You have to be very, very careful with the grants and ensure that you aren't spending more money as a city than you have in the grant and meeting the grant requirements. We are attempting to set aside funds for culvert and drainage maintenance, and we'll be back to council when we get some additional information. And the city has a long-standing policy of no debt. So that's the current Bulverde program. I want to go through 4 scenarios and talk through that. And again, I've listed them from low complexity to high complexity, and also low financial risk to high financial risk to the city. So I'll start out with what I call a low impact capital improvement program. This really, for us right now in Bulverde, this is the status quo option. We identify the needs on an ad hoc basis as appropriate. It comes up during the budget process. We continue our street program at the current funding levels. We utilize the pay-go funding method that we have been traditionally using, and we organize essentially around the general fund and don't really look into other funds for capital programming. Again, very simple continuation of what we're doing today. Medium-low impact. Now, we identify needs through a formal, albeit internal, needs assessment process. Limited number of priority projects. We set aside funds within each year's budget. So someone would sit up here or stand up here, probably me, maybe Aaron, and formally present a CIP program to you and say, here are the projects that we're looking to do this year, and here's what the next 4 years look like in terms of our capital programming needs. And we would tackle, again, the higher priority projects initially, and have those set aside and have a very good understanding of when the other projects would be accomplished. That's medium low. Medium high. Identify needs through a formal process again, but this time we might bring in some experts. We might bring in an engineer. We might bring in some traffic people. We might bring in some parks people to come in, do the assessment of our facilities. We might bring in someone to look at City Hall and give us an assessment of what this building looks like and what we need to do here in the future. A 5 to 10 year planning horizon is typical. And in all likelihood, this involves the issuance of debt just because of the magnitude of the projects that you're looking at. Will likely increase the tax rate, but the good news is you get more done. If you're happy where you are at right now in terms of capital programming, this takes you a step above where you are at right now. The capital programming and capital budgeting becomes a regular feature in our budget planning cycle. And this is the high end, what I call the high impact. This is the all-in option. So that's an external assessment of infrastructure needs throughout the city. And that's something where we are looking all across the board. We're looking at drainage. We are looking at the building assessments, we're looking at vehicle assessments, IT assessments. Again, just a very comprehensive overview of the city's capital needs. Typically, the planning horizon here is 20 years. And that coincides with typically the lifespan of the capital improvements. So your financial people will look at depreciation schedules, and we would do that under this scenario also, and that's how we would fund this. It wraps in, again, all aspects, building vehicles, IT, equipment needs. It is expensive, and there's a long lead time. You don't put a shovel in the ground right away under this option. It's 12 to 18 months of prep before that first shovel gets turned, because you're doing the assessment, you're doing the designing of it. It also incorporates replacement funding. So this is not the option where you would come in, identify your needs, pay for them 1 year, accomplish several projects, and you're done. This is a continuous cycle of capital replacement. So you might replace 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 11 years, but it is an ongoing cycle and an ongoing commitment, if you will, to capital funding. Debt becomes a regular and cyclical part of your budget. Under this option, you always have a debt component to your budget. This is as much, if not more, a financial exercise than it is an actual capital physical exercise. And at this point, you're really relying on the financial experts to help you out, help you to fund things long term. Every large city of any size, and I would say probably 40 to 50,000 or larger, uses this option right here. And they do it for a reason. So that's the high impact option. A couple of additional thoughts that I have, and these are just random thoughts from your city manager. New capital must be maintained. So if we are going to do something different and increase the amount of capital that we're going to have, or capital programming that we accomplish in the city, then necessarily we're also looking at the maintenance of that capital and how that will impact our operating budget years into the future. Frequently, it's the case where new capital, particularly if we're going to be adding parks, if we're going to be adding city facilities, it's the case where new capital will require additional personnel. I have seen it happen where cities have committed to additional capital in the form of parklands and trails and not committed to additional personnel, and the quality suffers. You go from a trail system that may be a B or a B plus down to a trail system that's a D, because you didn't have the personnel to maintain the doubling of your trail system. Ancillary costs, we've mentioned these throughout, maintenance contracts, vehicles and equipment that would be necessary, software, insurance, all of this comes into play and must be factored in. And again, I have that experience. Sharon has done this in ever different venues. She has that experience. So we have a good idea of what these costs would look like, but we would also want to go have some outside expertise come behind us to make sure that we're capturing all of these costs appropriately. There are long startup timelines for these kinds of substantial efforts and substantial plans. It is simply the way it works. I have been through now probably a dozen capital improvement programs and have started probably a half dozen capital improvement programs. And for the larger programs, that 12 to 18 month timeline, there's some low-hanging fruit. There always is. Some smaller projects that we get done early, you get done within 6 months or 12 months. But the bulk of what you're hoping to accomplish is going to be 12, 18, and 24 months out. If you are involving anything that requires a federal permit, you may be looking at 3, 4, or 5 years out. And that is just the nature and reality of the beast. So, I told you I would come back to these questions. And if you have thoughts on this now, great. If you don't have any thoughts on this, if you have these questions, that's fine too. I would throw out this caveat. We are now at the first meeting in February. If we are wanting to entertain the idea of a serious capital improvement program effort with our coming budget, the sooner you answer these questions, then the sooner I can begin that program and that process for the next budget in earnest. Absent answers to these questions, I don't believe I can provide you with a viable CIP program. So at some point, it's like the old Midas commercial, you know, you can answer the questions now or you can answer the questions later. But if you want a CIP program, you're going to have to answer these questions. And there may be more. These are the ones that I came up with. So this is not a canned internet presentation. This is just me sitting down and thinking, what do you need to know about a CIP program?
Okay, hold up. What we're gonna do this is we're gonna go in order so everybody can talk about what they need to say about it because it's gonna be kind of long and drug out. Please do not interrupt whoever's talking. So we'll start down here with Councilman Hawkins.
We need to do this, but we probably need, as a council, to have some conversations before we can answer mine. I remember the conversations when we were budgeting about why we wanted to do this. I think, Joe, you remember, because a lot of this was your idea, and I agree with you. A lot of commitments have been made to the city of Bulverde by many city councils, and none of them have ever been substantially delivered about what is Bulverde going to grow up to be, or what will Bulverde look like, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we needed to put a stake in the ground and say, we want to address this issue. And I think that was the reason that this was put in here, but I don't think we can answer these questions.
Councilman Watkins.
I think probably more questions than are suitable for tonight. I would say for myself, when we discussed this last year as part of our budget process, for me, it had to do with the kind of planning you're talking about and what looks like a higher impact category of things. And I was thinking specifically with respect to, you know, IT systems. Are we planning for when those things fail? Do we have a sense of how we're managing our assets? I know that that's a question that has come up a lot. You know, Aaron has had that conversation. I'm thinking specifically about the downtown visioning plan. The city spent in 2013 or 14, and Danny, refresh my memory, but it was something on the order of $150,000 for a study for the downtown visioning, which never got off the ground. And it's a central part of our current comprehensive plan. I don't think we really have a plan for advancing the goals of that in any meaningful way. So in my mind, it was those sorts of things. How can we be proactive with respect to the vision that we have for this community and not constantly reactive to things that could come up? So those are my thoughts generally in my recollection. Joe, when we get to you, you'll say, I think that this probably warrants a workshop or something separate. I think it's a strategy discussion. I don't think it's a host of more complicated questions than we can answer tonight.
Councilman Kravitz.
Mayor, if I may, please. I've got two questions in there, questions 3 and questions 4 on that list. You know, is debt a non-starter and is eminent domain a non-starter? And those are ugly questions. And I'm not immune to that. But if the answer to those two questions is no, then you're absolutely limited in what you can do. Then you are at the status quo plus a smidge.
Councilman Kravitz.
Yeah, like Francesca said, you know, I got a lot of questions about this still. I think I recall when we were talking in the budget, a lot of it did have to do with the downtown vision plan. And we were probably gonna have to have a workshop or something to come up with strategy and exactly what we want to address with the CIP. And I mean, I'm a Bulverde traditionalist. You know, we've never been a debt city and eminent domain. I mean, I get there's a point as we're expanding. There's also a lot of uncertainty in our future right now. We don't know if we're even gonna have ad valorem tax going forward. So there's just a whole lot of questions, and I think it needs to be part of a further discussion, so.
Councilman Hayes.
Well, a lot of the things that Jason's saying makes a lot of sense to me. I'm definitely concerned about potentially losing our ad valorem. You know, that could change the outlook of the city from what are we gonna do with the 10-acre park that we bought into how are we gonna pay for our police officer? Or, you know, any staff, name it. So it's hard for me to even think about issuing debt for capital improvements, things like this to better us when we may need every nickel we have just to support what we have. Issuance of debt, I'm not 100% opposed to it. I don't know what the community would feel about that. I definitely think community input would have to be a major part, at least for this. They would have to, they'd have to be all in my opinion, for us to be a debt.
And in all likelihood, they would have to vote. They would have that say.
That's right, yeah. Because, you know, I think it's more than we can answer today. I'm glad that you put this down on paper because a lot of these questions I hadn't even thought of. And now when you look at it, you know, I know when Joe originally talked about it, if I kind of remember what we were doing, we were trying to decide what are we going to do with this public works area back here? Are we going to put a fence up to start doing some stuff? And then we said, well, maybe let's work on a CIP to see where that fits into a whole plan. I don't think when we had that thought, we thought about eminent domain or any of this other stuff. It was just in the plan. How can we do this so we don't do work twice?
You weren't ready for your city manager to throw a stink bomb in there.
That's right. But I'm glad you did because we needed that kind of managerial lead to go, hey, here's what this really looks like. If you want to play with the big boys, here's what it looks like. And that's where we're at. And I'm not sure we're ready for that, but I think we need to start the discussion.
Councilman Alexander.
Yeah, so thank you, Mike, for putting this together. And yes, all valid points and, you know, describing where you want to go with it. So I guess my thought would be, you know, so they're kind of working this around the line is, you know, is we got to crawl before we walk approach, right? So I'm not expecting to be walking or running nonetheless at a high impact level, right? But we're not even crawling yet, you know, so the way I look at it is when we get a lot of ideas thrown at us in different directions of, well, we're paying rent at 4 separate storage locations across town, and we got a property right here, and you know, we can put a shed here, you know, that doesn't cost in eminent domain. We own the property, so it's not eminent domain. It's not, you know, it's not anything that I think, you know, we can build a police station without debt. I mean, why can't we build a storage shed there? But nothing's identified. You know, we don't have any identification to, you know, this is where we potentially plan to put a public works shed or area, you know, base, you know, that's relatively within a budget, you know, at that low impact level. So when you start hearing that, or we own 10 acres over there, we're still paying to maintain it, you know, we're still mowing it, we're still checking it, you know, and we're still doing a whole bunch of things to that that's, you know, I don't see what it's bringing to the city yet, right? So it's like, if we're gonna die with taxes and, you know, if that's gonna be a shrinking thing, then we're not doing anything to be attractive to get sales tax either. So when I look at that, then what are our other options, right? Sales tax. And how do you get attractive to sales tax? You need business, right? So, you know, whether that's through downtown to get sidewalks, you know, we don't know what that costs, but it could be something simple that can start tracking something, making connections down there. So when I look at CIP, I look at identifying things for the future, you know, which we haven't identified anything. Like we have the comprehensive plans and we have, you know, ideas of what we think can go there, here, but we don't identify, like, how do we connect 10 acres to downtown, you know, or how do we connect 10 acres to here or to Graywoods Park? So, you know, just thinking of simpler terms before, you know, kind of that crawl before you walk approach. So, you know, we are uncertain. I'm not a fan of debt by no means, especially a city our size. I'm not saying we're going to go and be a $400 million CIP program, but that'd be crazy. That'd be outrageous, you know? Yeah. So, you know, but I can't get a 2,000 square foot shed because we don't know what we're going to do with it. We can't even budget for it. So, you know, whether it's little things to identify that at least gets us crawling is what I would envision a CIP program for a small, young city. You know, when I hear that it takes 17 minutes to get out of my street, well, it's a 2-lane street, you know, and that's only going to get worse. 17 minutes, I bet you in 4 years, 5 years is going to be 30, 35, 40 minutes now because it's only going to continue to double, triple, quadruple, and we're still going to be on a 2-lane road because we don't have an identification of what we're going to do with that. So I guess from a CIP standpoint, yes, can we answer all these questions? No, I mean, I don't think anyone can answer these questions tonight, but at least the perspective that I would look at for that would be starting small, you know, and identifying those things. I don't ever think Bulverde would be maybe past our time. That'd be the great, you know, benefit of planting the seed is that it is a $400 million CIP program. But, you know, I would, you know, that's just not, to me, that's way out of the equation for us now, but we don't even know where to start. So I think just that little starting point of planting that seed and getting that to see where we can get in a 5-year plan, to me, is what identifies it. Not through a workshop, most likely, yes. We got to get community input and city input, because a lot of that too is where the city's going to go. I mean, you know, I'm sure we're going to need growth in that as well.
So obviously, right now, our CIP program is the Apply by the Seat of Our Pants program. That's essentially where we're at. We're reactionary. We're not as proactive as we need to be. We don't have anything objective that really outlines what is necessary for the city to improve on or add to give the best value to our system. That's where we're at. Some costs with the downtown vision. I wouldn't want you guys to be gun shy about this, because what we could actually put in place is a good program and a good focus for the city on where we're going to focus our efforts. And I just share with our neighborhood in Exbrook, once it turned over from KB to us, homeowners-led board, the first thing we did was we ordered up a reserve study. And that gave us a bulleted list of, hey, this is on the decline, this needs immediate attention. We probably park this for some period of time. So that was our CIP that we got. It came with a steep price tag. It really did. But what it did was it outlined the vision for our community in terms of how we're going to maintain it, what are we going to add on, and then we can start dreaming about what we wanted, because we could see how much money we needed for this, that, and the other. If we maybe creep up the dues just a touch, which in this case would be taxes, we can carve out an amenity that would be enjoyed by everyone, and everyone can see the value of government taking money out of our pockets. So looking at the way you detail this, great. I appreciate the way you think. I really like it. We're currently at this low impact, status quo, pay as we go, and I'm in agreement with the way you laid it out, that there needs to be an external process that would be conducted by someone to give us the forest for the trees perspective on our city, and give us some more detailed view of what needs to work on. Debt is a tool in our toolbox. I don't like debt. I don't carry debt. I got a few things that are debt because that's the best tool for my family at that time. And for a city, it's advantageous to everyone to utilize debt where necessary to accomplish something that can be immediately enjoyed or is an immediate need, such as the block system. we don't know how much that's gonna cost in a year. It may have a price tag that's obscene, it might be not as much, but we have tools in our toolbox to address these financial needs that they come up, and debt is one. So obviously, we're not gonna answer all the questions tonight, but I really appreciate you putting this together, and if you were to bring us all back together and talk more in earnest and have this be the focus of the meeting, I would be in attendance. So, thank you.
Mike, you told me that, you made a comment to me that, that we are a 10% city, right?
Yes.
And this, I like what you did with it. However, I think this is for a 65% city. We're not ready for this, okay?
This
And
is
let
for-
me-
this is about a 25%.
Well, I think that the high impact is about a 65, so.
Well, the high
we're on
impact,
that.
yes.
Yes, so our city and, you know, our city, since the day I got elected here, and I repeated and repeated and repeated is, we have no plan. We have no plan for our future. Our infrastructure isn't even set up for our future. We have things that are way more important that we would need to, or even consider to go in debt. If there was a way for us to go out and solidify that we could buy water and we can have some kind of source of water as a backup system somewhere, I think our city would have no problems with going on a bond election and increasing some taxes to raise those funds. On this, where we're at right now, we have no idea what we need. Based upon the conversations that we have had about streets, all of us, you know, we've had a conversation about streets, to the traffic that's going past our streets. Yes, we used to do our roads, but we used to do our roads every 3-4 years, and it was great. Now we're looking at it, the amount of traffic that's traveling on them, and we're gonna be fixing our roads every 2 years at triple the cost. Based upon what we have in our bank account now and where we're at, I'm struggling very much to figure out how we're going to do this. We need to have a plan of, as Chris said here, as Councilman Goff said, about what we need now, what we can put off, where we can go, what's gonna be, you know, going bad in a year, what's gonna be going bad in 2 years. You know, we talked about it when we presented the road plan the other day. Well, what can we take off of here to fix this, right? And maybe we don't have all the money now to pay $150,000 for that road plan. But we planned on it, we put it in the budget without having a plan for our future. We don't have a plan that meets our comprehensive plan, our vision, none of it. If we could come up with a way, and this is going to take a budget workshop, this is gonna take a couple of workshops for us to figure it out and to get out there. We have constantly asked each other, what is important for you for the next 5 years? What's important for you for the next 2 years? What's important for our neighbors sitting out here and our constituents for the next year? What do they want to see? Do we know? We have no clue. Nothing's in writing. You know, and I'm finding out that, you know, we have a problem with transporting our people who are going to medical appointments up here. We have a big problem here in this city that we have to figure out what is important. I like this, but I think it's so far ahead of where we are right now, or where we can even be starting to think or even envision what we can put on here right now. We have basics that we need to take care of. And I mean, I think all of us would agree sitting up here, we have a certain amount of money in our budget that we're worried that maybe we're not gonna have that because we're gonna go to sales tax. We have to figure out how to get some businesses in here that's gonna help us cover, whether it be downtown, whether it be on 281, whether it be up on 46, we need to figure that out. You know, and there's some things that we're gonna need to be figuring out that, you know, match up to what our vision has been or what our comprehensive plan has been along the way. Because Francesca said it right, none of it matches. Nobody's doing anything to go that way. We're just flying by the seat of our pants. I feel like we're taking the decision out of my left pocket and we're just paying it with my right pocket and then figuring out what's left in my back pocket. And we need a plan, and we just need to down this down a little bit. We need to sit down in a meeting, and I think we need to poll all of ourselves, and we poll our constituents. We know what they want. They wrote it. We have a plan for that, and we need to figure it out, because right now, even our roads, I'm concerned how we're gonna pay for our roads in 3 years.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
In response to that, because I hear everything you're saying. Wouldn't a capital improvement plan address some of those very issues? A capital improvement plan would help us prioritize, for example, potentially a traffic study. How we could address the issues of traffic. How it could address issues of attracting business here.
Yes.
Could that not be part of what we accomplish with a capital improvement plan?
A multi-year document provides a government schedule of public physical improvements. So it's not the be-all, end-all.
But it could be the beginning of that
It's the beginning.
conversation.
We need a beginning. We don't need to, I feel like we're starting, at 50%. We're still down here at 2% starting. We don't have a plan. There has not been a plan in place. We have
It doesn't.
nothing to start from.
To
And
answer,
so I would really like to see that we start off having a workshop and figuring out where we need to be. And maybe it isn't a CIP. Maybe it's we call it something else, or we, whatever name there is for it. But we need to figure out what is important to us now, and we need to have a plan. We need to have a plan for 2 years. We need to have a plan for 4 years. I mean, we didn't have a road plan until we asked for it here a couple months ago. So we need to figure that out. We need to know where we're sitting too. Can we secure water somewhere? I'm sure having those conversations out there trying to figure it out. Do we go and maybe we need to go and buy some private land that has water on it? I don't know. But right now, we're sitting ducks. Our city's sitting ducks. We have no water. And we really need to figure out what we need and where we need to go. And we really need to figure out our suspects. It's important. So if we use this as an outline and we move that way, or we figure it out in a workshop where all of us can input and everybody can come in and input to what we're going to do, great. I think that's great that we're moving and we're going somewhere.
I think everything in your.
This is great, but it's a little bit, like I said, we're at 10%, and I feel like this is at a 50 or 65, and we're not there yet. We're not there.
I think everything you're concerned about can be addressed in the format that he's talking about. It's
Correct.
just for no matter what it is.
Correct.
He gave us here's the crawling version, and here's the up running a marathon version. And we can get to all of it just using a format. So I agree. We need to figure out what we want that to look like, so we can start small, so that we can get to where we want to be. I agree. A lot of these things you're talking about, water, all this other stuff, roads. Roads may be what we want our first CIP project to be.
Right.
So.
But we don't even know until we can sit down and talk about it and have
That's
a
right.
workshop. So we need to start there. So these questions are not going to get answered tonight. I don't think we know what scenario makes the most sense to us at this point. Is an issue of debt non-starter? Well, let's talk about it. Maybe we go into debt for water and roads, but we wouldn't go into debt for building a maintenance building. And we need to really sit down and talk about that and really understand where we're going to be. Because all of this may not make any difference in 2 years, but we also need to have that. I'd like to know how much it costs for us to provide services to each one of our residents. We don't know that right now. So, things that we need to know and sit down and talk. So my suggestion would be for this is we can set up a workshop where we can sit down and all bring our ideas to the table and start there. But, also the rest of council just got this tonight, and we got this presented, your document presented tonight, so I'm sure that they're all going, wow, wait a minute. And I think they probably need some time to look at it and digest it and get their thoughts together also.
Yeah.
But I appreciate this. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. But I think we're way ahead of where we need.
I want to answer the council member's question.
Thank you.
Would a CIP cover what the mayor had addressed earlier? About half. what the mayor's comments are directed toward would be a strategic plan for the community, more so than a CIP. Strategic plan is necessarily much broader in scope, 2-year, 3-year timeframe horizon. And again, your CIP is really concentrating on your capital improvements. As I understood the charge, and I wasn't here for it, but I understood the charge, there was an interest in the community in terms of having a CIP and not a lot of discussion beyond that. What you have is what a CIP is and what it looks like and what it feels like at various levels. And again, the crawl, walk, run model that you propose really applies to those 4 scenarios that I discussed. So again, no one here, I'm not an advocate for that high end. And please, if I sound like I am, not. But I will say this, I've managed 6 cities to include Garden Ridge, and even Garden Ridge had a CIP. I know because I brought it to them. And I started them down that.
So if the answer to the mayor's concerns is a strategic plan, does a CIP follow from a strategic plan? Is that the order in which we should be having these conversations? Or I'm just sort of trying to understand how we get to the answer.
Yeah, and you're talking about CIP to attract business for sales tax. Does CIP play a big role in that? I mean, I don't know. I'm just going to put this out there. We do have an EDF that we're not talking to right now. So, I mean, that could be a discussion that we could have later on. I mean,
Oh, I don't think that's what we're discussing right now. We're discussing about how we're gonna do the CIP.
I think the thing we need to be very
let's bring it-
I think the thing we need to be very careful of is setting our expectations for the CIP and not allowing it to become this omnibus document
Sure.
that tries to address every aspect of the community.
That's what I'm trying to
And might I suggest that that's why we haven't been successful in years past with the CIP program.
Well,
We need
again,
to stay laser focused on what we're trying to accomplish, whatever that might be.
So given the mayor's concern, which I largely share, I'm asking for your opinion now. What would a reasonable first step in addressing those concerns be for us as a council? Should we gather and create a strategic plan first? Do we table the idea of a CIP currently until we get some other things accomplished? I'm looking for some guidance about how to, because I think, right, I'm still in here. I came into office with certain concerns. The mayor has expressed many of them. How do we have a strategic conversation so that we can address them holistically?
Here's my concern with the strategic plan versus a CIP. Again, you can craft a CIP to tackle your infrastructure needs, keep the focus necessarily tailored. Your strategic plan, all too often, what I've seen with the strategic planning process is a big laundry list of things to do that never get done because nobody has the money and our staff to do it. That would be my worry. We're going to adopt a strategic plan and go off. We're barely above water now.
Are we prohibited from having strategic conversations as part of the CIP process?
No, I don't think so. And if you wanted to antecedent to that process, if you wanted to set down strategic priorities for staff and then incorporate that into your CIP, I could see where that would be appropriate. I would look to hire an external facilitator for that. I could take you through that exercise, and I've done it. But at that point, I'm not a participant. I'm just a facilitator, and it's really hard to facilitate and participate at the same time. You need me to be a participant.
so my suggestion would be that we schedule to have a workshop meeting, right? And we bring all our thoughts and processes to that meeting where we can have an open discussion of where we would like to go. I think that, people up here at the dais would like to probably look and see what the differences is between their CIP and a strategic plan, and really know what's been presented to them tonight and understand it. And I think that they are owed that time. So can we set up a time for a workshop to discuss this in the council?
And can I just piggyback on that? Can we also authorize, we've got, what, $50,000 in the budget now for a CIP program?
Yes.
Do you need, to your point about an external facilitator, so that you can be part of the conversation as opposed to the facilitator, or is that premature at this point?
I think it's premature. Let's have a first meeting, and then we can discuss that in that meeting, and then we can bring it back to council to vote upon if we need to. But I think that right now, we need to have a budget to discuss it. And I think the
we should do it
majority of
before our
people
first
here,
budget meeting, too.
yes, and before our first budget meeting.
So the focus of this workshop is what?
To figure out what we want.
To discuss a CIP, a strategic plan, and exactly what each council person wants to bring to the table regarding each.
But not the CIP. Talking strategic plan.
Is it CIP or strategic?
It really just
Or-
needs to be a general
and-
where we want to go.
Yeah, we need to
Where we want
discuss,
to go, what we need to.
yes, we need to talk and see where we need to go with this. And I don't think that tonight, anybody at this diocese is prepared to do that.
And I knew that coming in, I'm not gonna get answers to this. I wasn't expecting answers, but
So,
as I've said before, pay me now or pay me later, sooner or later. you're gonna-
so we need a motion to,
This is not a vote, right? We don't need a vote on
Do you need a vote?
do
For
we need a
direction?
motion?
I don't. I do not.
Okay, so we're just gonna set up you'll set up a time for for us to meet?
What is your timeline for this? We've got a lot coming down.
Pretty
the pipe.
quick.
My handy dandy that I just got from the city manager. And I want to say that your CIP probably will look similar to this if you,
Yes.
Yep.
Which is the way it should be. That way we know what we're working with.
So I think probably before our first
Like
meeting.
you.
So
Okay.
before our first session.
Yes, before our first session, thank you. I probably will. So our first session will be,
I
what are
think
you
May-
doing?
May-
May 14th?
I think sometime in March.
So can we address that sometimes in March? Yes.
Okay.
Maybe the third week. Oh, yeah, maybe the third week of March, if it works with everywhere. Somewhere 16th through the 20th.
I'll have to look at my calendar.
Excuse me?
We can get
Well, we
the
can do
city
that.
secretary to send out some options and we can.
We can do the 19th too, if it works for everybody. Yeah, send out some options. Jason said he's not available 16th through 18th, so. Okay, we still could do it during the day.
Okay.
She's a town hall every month.
Yeah, I do.
Other questions?
Huh?
Other
No,
questions?
thank you. No, we're good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your work on this.
Very good stuff.
Okay, moving on. 4F. Discuss and consider approval of an ordinance of the city of Bulverde, Texas, amending the fiscal year 25-26 budget, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. You're up.
Okay, so Mayor, Council, this is to recognize the funds that were donated, the $2,500 to increase the park fund revenue as well as the park and recreations expense line on our budget. And all monies have been received at this time.
Is our power pole.
And we do have.
So it's just the 2,500, that's all
Yes,
we're
the
adjusting?
10,000 is already, yeah, we've
Yeah,
already,
the 10 we already got, right?
yes, ma'am. We did that, I want to say 2 meetings ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. And then, so this is just the 25.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Just to
May I
increase.
make a motion?
You can.
Make a motion to approve this ordinance of the Bulverde City of Bulverde, Texas, amending the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget, repealing conflicting ordinances, and providing accessibility clause, and providing effective.
Second.
Okay, we got a second. from Alexander. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, public comments not related to posted agenda items. I have no one who has signed up to publicly speak tonight.
Will none come up to the podium, please?
However, I would like to say that we are very saddened to have lost Judge Cameron Krause this week. We'd really like to offer our condolences to his family, his friends, his colleagues who are out there. He was a very nice and appreciative person who will be truly missed in everything that he did. I know that his interment will be on the 16th of this month, and we do look forward to being there and supporting his family, his colleagues. Anybody else have anything they want to add? No? All right. Okay, so we're going to go to executive session, adjourn our executive session at 8:45 p.m. The city council will meet in executive session to seek the advice of their legal counsel about pending litigation. Police Agent Cook versus City of Bulverde, clause number C2025-07440A, a lawsuit pending in 22nd District Court of Comal County. Okay. Okay, y'all just wait for me to finish.
Generic? Yeah. That's what I want. It's on the, I think it's 600, 700, 800. 1,200 and then there's 800.
Yeah, the generic kind of more of a rules work, but it's bad.
Yeah. On the menu, I don't know.
All right, we'll call back to order. Do we have any further items on? And we can adjourn, we have no actions in executive session, and we can adjourn. At 9:00.
Thank you. It's a long day. I'll update my calendar to sheet.